well, recent year that in the industry we can find that there's a lot of hybrid power solutions, which obviously you can find in the big companies providing a hybrid power solution for telecom tower, base station, these kind of things. I think this is, for the big side, for the big investment, it is okay. But when we are doing the job for the video surveillance side, for some Wi-Fi hotspot, this kind of site, we should be very careful, because I don't think the hybrid power solution is very good for this kind of small power site. The reason is the investment and the income, because every site you deploy there, you can imagine this is a small site, the income of this site is limited, right? But when you're deploying the hybrid side, you're expecting that the solar power, can provide some additional power when you lose the power from the power grid, right? Especially in some area that, for example, in Africa, the power grid is not that stable, right? But this is a very ideal way of thinking. But the reality is, when you go to the site, you will find that actually, if you want to deploy a solar site, you have to put a very big solar panel there. And imagine that the solar panel big, you put on the pole and put on the roof or some. It's kind of difficult. And consider your site is a very small site. The investment is relatively huge compared with your site. On the other hand, you have to prepare the battery, right? And you have to prepare the whole system, which I think is not correct way to do the job, because you already have the power grid. So our suggestion for small site or mid-level site, what we should do when we have the power grid, we should have the best usage of the power grid, not using a hybrid system. For example, if you have a power grid is not stable in Africa, this kind of scenario, maybe you will lose power for 1 or 2 days, right? And then when the power grid come back, it could last like 4 hours, 5 hours, let's say. Then in this kind of very bad power grid, what you should do is configure a relatively big battery to make sure the battery can last for 2 or 3 days for the whole system. But use a relatively bigger UPS as compared with what you really need. So when you have the power grid come back, you charge the battery very quickly. That way, you will adapt your system to the not stable power grid. But this kind of investment is much more less than what you want to do with the hybrid, because when you're doing the hybrid, you have to consider the hybrid system existing and with the solar panel plus power grid, and you merge them together, and the system is more complex. The solar panel, how do you install, and if it is very small, make no sense. If it is big, it will make more complex for you to install there, and there's a lot of cost for the installation cost, operation cost, right? In the end, the battery also you have to consider something different, because you have to make sure the power grid and the solar panel charge together, and you switch from this end to that, right? The system is more complex, make no sense. So that's why I really suggest that in some places, in the developing countries, if your power grid is not stable, you don't consider hybrid system when your site is relatively small. You use a UPS system, charge the system quickly, charge the battery quickly. Well, that means, for example, if you have a 100 watts load, and you configure 1000 watts UPS, and you can charge the battery very quickly, right? So that way is the best way to make your solution in this scenario.